Mother Knows Death. Starring Nicole and Jemmy and Maria QK.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mother Knows Death. On today's episode, we're going to talk about how contestants on the reality show Survivor had to poop. VR or virtual reality headsets are being given to prisoners. A woman who had astronomical amounts of lead in her body. A woman who was born without the ability to blink. And a woman who is allergic to her husband. All that and more on today's episode.
All right, so Sophia Balerdi, who I guess was on the most recent season of Survivor, which I cannot believe that show is still airing consistently.
That's what I wanted to know. Like, why does anybody want to do this?
I don't know, and it's season like 49 or something crazy. I don't know why anybody would want to, but I actually wrote an article a couple years ago about that show Naked and Afraid, which I think is worse because you're completely nude the whole time and they just introduce a whole other set of problems. But whatever. So like she's on Survivor, she's getting asked by a fan the question I'm sure everybody wants to know, which is how do you go to the bathroom on the show, because they're supposed to be on a quote unquote like desert island type of situation and have to survive. So she explains there's basically one of two options. The first, which is the easiest, is you can go in the ocean and just poop right there. Or the second is they have something called the Coconut Grove, where the teams will create this designated area called the Coconut Grove, and you basically dig a hole in the ground, poop, and bury your poop. But that comes with concerns of digging up other people's poop. So none of this seems appealing at all.
Exactly. I'm just like, why does anyone want to do that? It reminds me of, I wrote an article in the grocery room about this, how people are going to the bathroom in some areas of India. And it's the same thing, like on this poop beach. And that's the same exact thing. They're either going on this beach and pooping, or they're going in the water and pooping in the water. But at least I guess on this show, the producers are like designating areas where people should do that, because if you just let people go wherever they want, it's really going to become a problem on areas where you want people to eat their lunch and enjoy the beach, you know? So, I just think like the pooping outside is just like, no, I'm good. Thanks. I enjoy doing hikes and outdoor activities and things like that, but like I don't really even know. I just don't understand the show. I never actually watched it, but do you win? I'm assuming you win something.
I think you win money at the end.
Is it just respect, or?
I think you might win money at the end, but I don't think you get anything at all if you get kicked off before. So like you could basically get to the end and then
I get it's kind of a challenge for people, I guess, that you want to see if you could do that and how you could last and stuff. I don't know.
And they're out there for like a month. It said it ranges from 26 to 39 days depending on like what the season is or what format they're doing that season. So no thank you. This doesn't sound enjoyable at all.
I feel like the worst part for me would just be, which I've heard there, it would be like the mosquito bites and stuff and just that kind of stuff. The sunburn.
That's what I wrote about Naked and Afraid, because they're nude and they can bring one item with them. So most of the times they'll bring like a fire starter or something like that to make their life easier. But the most common issues they see on that show is A, trench foot because they don't have shoes on. Or B, they have severe reactions to the bug bites and they can't take it. Sometimes they get weird infections. You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have my vagina like exposed to all that outside stuff like that.
No, I think it would be just a terrible
And especially,
choice.
where do they film these things? In locations that have those bugs, like in Indiana Jones, that are the size of your arm and stuff? No thanks.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if I've never watched, I don't even think I've seen ever an episode of Survivor, so I don't know how it works at all. But I wonder if it's the same, I would assume it's the same property they're on every time. So are like they going in between seasons and cleaning this poop out of the ground, or
I don't
like
know. That's nasty.
because I think it's not like they only film it once a year. If they have going into 50 seasons, the show's been on probably 20-25 years, so they're filming at least 2 seasons a year. It's not like, you know, I just don't understand why
I
people
wonder
want
if
to
we
put
have any
themselves.
Survivor. There has to be like diehard fans if it's been on for that long.
Oh, there totally is. So I know one of you guys is out there, so you need to let us know. All right, California prisons are introducing VR headsets to inmates as, quote, hope machines that they can provide them with an escape or exposure to real world scenarios to help them re enter society if they get out.
I think this is kind of cool. I mean, like a lot of times we talked about this on yesterday's episode. Sometimes you have people that are in prison for life in prison, and there's certainly terrible people, like people who leave a little girl for dead to get eaten by alligators that don't deserve to have any, in my opinion, like escape. They
Yes.
shouldn't be able to like go on a fake vacation to Thailand with a VR headset. But I think I think I would be a fan of it for certain prisoners. I would have to handpick all of them, of course, according to their crimes. But I like one of the things was saying that it does these like virtual job interviews, which is really good because I think it could really help people in general when you get out of prison. The biggest thing is that you want to start your life over again, and if it gives them skills to be able to do that, then that's the best case scenario, not only for them, but for society as a whole, that they're not just going to go out and start selling drugs again or start doing crimes again to make money a way that because they can't get a real job because they don't have any skills like that.
Yeah, like I think when I first started reading the article and they were presenting it, I think the first case they presented was a prisoner that used it as an escape to take what you just said, like a quote unquote vacation to Thailand, for example, right? And when I was reading that, I'll probably get shit for this, but like, depending on what the severity of the crime was, I'm like, jail is not supposed to be like a desirable or comfortable place to go, right? It's supposed to be this horrible place you don't want to go to, which keeps people in line. And obviously, the people in prison have rights and everything, but I'm like, we're giving them a video game to play, and that's the way I saw it at first. But then once they started talking about exactly what you're saying, like doing virtual job interviews, or something I never thought about is people that have been in prison a long time aren't up to date with how technology works, so it could present them with scenarios like how to use a grocery store self checkout or how to use modern day ATMs or gas stations or something like that. I think that's really useful tool. And obviously I don't think they're just handing it out to anybody to use. It's probably prisoners that have gone in and shown a lot of progress and reform that are ready to start going back out into the world.
Do you think they can make some kind of program for Brian Koberger or something that simulates like him getting murdered the way he murdered those kids and forcing him to wear it?
I'm sure that would be an ethical concern with like psychological torture.
I think ethics could be bent sometimes. You could.
Yes. I agree. Like I said on yesterday's episode with the guy that left that poor little girl out to be eaten by alligators, I think you deserve what you like. You should get what you gave. So like F these people. Some people are just horrible, evil human beings, and they deserve to have some form of torture in response, like Koberger, like that guy in jail. So whatever, but
But the guy that robbed the gas station, totally cool. He could go on his pseudo vacations to Thailand.
No, whatever. There's obviously people that just make bad choices when they're young or whatever, and like they do actually go to jail and are reformed.
Oh, you want to
after,
hear
but-
something cool? Actually, I don't think I told you this. So when we were just on our road trip, we went to Alcatraz, and when we were there was a guy that was a former prisoner at Alcatraz that had a book that he was selling, and he was 93 or something, or 98. He was in his 90s, and he was so cute. He was like this cute old little man that had fur in his ears. And Gabe bought the book. I'll send you a picture of it. We got the book signed by him, and we had Lucia. Lucia had so many questions, so she asked him. She was like, "Why were you in jail here?"
Yeah, why did he go to jail?
So it was actually like really shitty at Alcatraz because no one ever just went there. You went there because you escaped other prisons, and that was considered a prison that was impossible to escape from.
Even though Clint Eastwood did in that one movie. So.
Exactly. I love that movie. It's so good. So So yeah, this guy, he stole cars or something when he was like 17. And he went to prison and then he's like, and I broke out. So then they put me back in and I broke out again, which I was like, this is so cool. Like this old guy. And then they brought him to Alcatraz because he kept breaking out of prison and he did his time there and then he left. But I'm just like, you're looking at this guy and he's just like this cute old guy. And he seemed very normal and just, if you met him on the street, you would never ever think that like he served time at Alcatraz, you know?
Well, this is what I'm talking about. Like, he made a bad decision as a teenager and, like, obviously kept making bad decisions trying to escape, which is why he was sent there. But clearly, like, he eventually paid his time and he got out, he wrote a book and everything, and now he's living as a cute old man. But if you're purposely leaving a child on the side of the road knowing full well she's going to get eaten by an alligator, I don't think you get to go to Thailand for 5 minutes. Like, no thank you.
And I think there's something to be said too about like, so let's use my little old man as an example. Like if he was in prison, you know, modern day now, because he stole cars, so he wasn't going to be sentenced for that long, right?
Yeah.
But when you're 17 and you're in prison and it's terrible, you're like, get me the F out of this place. I'm breaking out of here. So, and it's the same thing with one of the people I believe that was involved with the Alcatraz breakout. I believe that the one of them that didn't go through with it at the very end was not in there, was not supposed to be in there for the rest of his life. So one could argue if the prisoners are semi entertained and not extremely bored with time on their hands to figure out how to break out, because that's exactly what happened at Alcatraz. Like you have guys, a bunch of guys getting together that have nothing to do all day and they get creative.
Yeah.
And that's how they break out, and they also start shit with other prisoners, and then that could get them in trouble again. So like this guy, for example, stole cars when he was 17. If he just stayed there for however long he was supposed to be there, 2 or 3 years, and left, he would have went on to be in his young 20s and had a normal life. But because he kept breaking out, it's like it added 15 years onto his sentence. And
Yeah.
and hard time at a prison with like Al Capone and shit. So maybe if they have something to do, you can like it's kind of for the greater good of all involved.
Yeah, I could see that.
Just not Brian Koberger or the guy that
No,
alligator guy.
There are just some people that should just rot in hell. All right. All right. This one's a little complex, so just bear with me. A couple years ago, for months, this woman, Hannah, had been experiencing debilitating pain in her body so bad that she missed her daughter's birthday party. Eventually, it gets to the point where she's in so much pain that she calls her mom while her husband's at work to bring her to the emergency room. So there they were going to send her home at first because her vital signs were showing that everything was okay, but she ended up having a seizure and was unconscious for 48 hours, and they just really didn't know what was going on. So after a couple days of testing, they find a, quote, astronomical amount of lead inside of her body, and her mom starts freaking out when the doctors suggest that she couldn't have accidentally ingested this, and instead they believe somebody was giving it to her intentionally as an attempted murder.
That's a really interesting conversation to have, because assuming the husband was also going, I mean, the husband's always responsible, right? So like assuming he was there visiting her as well, like would a doctors wait for that guy to leave and then go in and then talk to the mother? Like, because that could be a very hostile environment to bring something like that up. If the guy, you know, he could freak out and be like, what are you talking about, and stuff like that. I guess my question is, if that happens in the hospital, obviously, because I don't take care of patients that are alive, I wouldn't know that. If a doctor suspects that, I feel like they should get the police involved and then have the police interview the family, because like, what are they going to do about it? You know what I mean?
Well, so initially, when they figured out why this amount of lead was in her body, I mean, they're like, I think they were in shock she was not dead based on what they saw on the testing. So I think initially they had separated her and considered anyone close to her a suspect. So the mom and the husband, right? And there was this history of the mother and husband not getting along, so they couldn't necessarily trust one source versus the other. But they did notice that the mom actually seemed very concerned for her well-being, whereas the husband did not seem as concerned. So at some point it comes up that she had been taking these capsule supplements that her husband, who was a chiropractor, had been giving her, and nobody had thought anything of it because he was a licensed chiropractor. So the doctors then start asking him, like, can you bring these capsules in so we can see what's going on? Because, even mom was just telling me she was taking this supplement that maybe could affect her kidneys or whatever bullshit. I'm sure she didn't tell you because of the eye roll you made.
I just don't want to know. I don't want to know.
Anyway, so he's being really weird. He won't bring the capsules in. He just keeps sending them pictures of similar over-the-counter ones. And they're like, no, we need the exact ones she took. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, these are ones I give my patients, basically. So he's being really weird about it. And this is when they start getting police involved because they're like, okay, this guy's being weird and he's not being forthcoming. And, like, the mom actually does seem really concerned for her well-being, whereas this guy does not. So she starts to get better by March. This all goes down in January of 2022. So she starts to get better by March. She ends up going back home and files for divorce because, like, at this point, they think the husband is the primary suspect, obviously by his weird behavior. So then, in a classic what seems to be abusive relationship, there's a history that they didn't always get along great, and he definitely tried to isolate her from her mom and everything. She meets up with him. He convinces her to get back with him. And then the police are talking to her, and they're like, are you going forward with this or not? Because, like, we still think he's the suspect. So she ends up saying, okay, I will continue to, like, be split up from him and file for divorce. So this whole time, this cocky guy is like, they're not going to get me. I didn't do anything wrong, blah, blah, blah. They can't even find these capsules. Oh, no. A contractor goes to the police and says, I recently installed lead-based lining in this guy's practice for an x-ray room. And the material we used is so easy to scrape off that it could be in shavings that could easily be put into a capsule. So then they go to his office, get part of this lead lining from the wall, and confirm that that was as possible as it is.
What? This is so weird. So what keyed the contractor off?
He saw his name in the news as being a suspect for this and was like, I just did an install for this guy using this lead-based lining. Because we talked about a story, a couple weeks ago, how a place didn't have that lining and that all those people were being exposed to radiation and stuff.
So the doctor was scraping this lead off of the wall and putting it in a capsule and then having her take them as a supplement.
Yes. For months.
And they were able to confirm it based upon studies done on the same exact wall. That's how they, like, did they ever find the capsules?
I don't think they ever found the capsules, but they studied those, and then, she's just like, she was like, I was visibly getting very sick, and he would angrily force me to take the capsules every single night.
So when she went back out of she was in the hospital for a while and then she got better and then she went back out. Did she take them again?
No. So at that point, she had filed for divorce, maybe was going to get back with them. And then the police were like, you need to decide what you're doing because we want to, like, go forward with this.
So the treatment, they figured out that she had at the hospital that she had lead in her colon.
They said that her colon had so much lead in it, it was almost 100% full of lead, and it was showing up in her bones. I don't know medically how accurate that was. That was her mother's description of the events.
No, I mean, this is the thing. When you ingest lead, it gets absorbed into the bloodstream and then it gets stored into your bones. But I just don't understand how it would be in her actual colon.
Maybe that was the mother in the interview misunderstanding exactly where it was in her body, but I guess based on the amount and considering on her account she was not intentionally taking it, they were like, well, somebody's giving it to you. So, like, how is
Like,
it getting in your body?
one of the things that I read was that she had to get this round the clock irrigation of her colon to remove it. And I don't know, it just seems weird to me because I guess in theory if a person took it and you did the irrigation like right away, but once it absorbs, it's stored in the body. So there's like no way to take it. There are ways, but there's certain kinds of drugs that you would give called chelation drugs that bind to the lead to try to remove it from the body. But the irrigation just wouldn't be a typical way. The only thing I'm thinking is that if she was taking so many of these pills that it was like not getting, like, you understand what I'm saying? Like she would have been pooping it out
Well,
and it would be absorbed in the body. I don't
I
know. Like obviously like I don't see the medical record and stuff, but
this is just
this is terrible.
this is their account of it. He went on trial last summer and was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison.
It's just it's really scary. Like we actually know someone that got poisoned by their girlfriend, and I talked to him extensively about it. And it's really, when you're an outsider looking in, you're just like, that's just like such shady, skeptical behavior that you would think like, why don't people understand, like see that this is happening right now? But I feel like when you're in it, like she was saying, it was the ultimate case of gaslighting. Like I just would think if Gabe was trying to get me to take drugs all the time and I didn't feel good, you just would think that you would put two and two together like really fast.
Yeah, you would think. The way this article presented was that they had a history of an abusive relationship. They met when she was 18, he was 29. She got pregnant very quickly. They got married within months of starting to go out with each other. And she had alluded that they had a physically abusive relationship while she was pregnant. Obviously, he had a bad relationship with the mom and was trying to keep them separated. He was trying to blame the whole incident on the mother. And the mom's like, how would I have been poisoning her? I haven't seen her every day like you have. It was just so ridiculous. And to think he really thought he was going to get away with it. I mean, he probably would have if that contractor never came forward and showed police the source of lead that could easily be put into these capsules.
Yeah, that's a wild story.
Really weird. This episode is brought to you by The Gross Room.
Guys, don't forget tomorrow is our Forensic or Funeral Friday and our YouTube live that we have every week. We also have additional articles every week that we do not cover on the Mother Knows Death podcast, so check that out.
Head over to thegrossroom.com now to sign up. So, a woman's gone viral on TikTok after sharing she was born without the ability to blink, and it's a condition that she inherited from her father.
It's called congenital ptosis. So ptosis is droopy eyelids. So she was born with a condition that her levitator muscle that is surrounding her eye, it doesn't work to lift up her eyelids. So her eyes just constantly look like sleepy.
It's interesting. The article was saying that she had a procedure done to try to fix this, because immediately I'm like, well, how does that work? Because wouldn't her eyeballs dry out and cause other issues? But I guess they were able to go in and change the way, you could probably explain this better than I am, change the muscle it was coming from. So it comes from her eyebrow muscle, the way she blinks.
Yeah, it could be a problem for some people because the lids could droop so much that it actually covers the pupil and could cause problems with vision. So they have to surgically intervene sometimes. But you could see still as an adult that her eyelids look a little bit different than anybody else's. But I think it's cool. Like, it's cool she's talking about it. Of course, she said that she got bullied and made fun of and stuff like that.
Yeah, which surprised me with her decision to share it online, because she said she had never met anybody else with the condition except people in her family that also have it. So she's actually been met with overwhelming amount of kindness on TikTok, which I can't believe because people are so mean on there. But she's actually been connected with other people that have it too. So it's cool that she's trying to like show off this unique thing that's going on.
Yeah, it is.
All right. After getting married in 2023, this couple was trying to get pregnant, wasn't having any luck, and thought they were facing the dreaded diagnosis of unexplained infertility, which I explained in my IVF dissection a couple weeks ago. But as it turns out, after some testing, doctors discovered that the wife is allergic to her husband's DNA.
Yeah, this is really crazy. So when, you know, these people, so she's having a fertility problem, but these people often don't have a problem for fertilization of the egg. And in this case, she was getting IVF, so thinking that that was the problem when really the fertilization isn't the problem. It's once it, you know, the fertilized egg is then a combined your own DNA and the father's DNA. And this happens when a person's body recognizes that father's DNA as foreign and attacks it and gets it out. I mean, this is like really bad if you have this happen, obviously. And it's an interesting question to bring up because people that have this happen have history of multiple failed IVF attempts. And is this something that gets brought up at the IVF doctor if a person's having multiple attempts?
Well, before, in my case, before you even go through IVF, before you get there, I mean, you got to get so much testing done to try to figure out what the problem is. But unfortunately, when they really can't find an answer, you get diagnosed with unexplained infertility, which is like probably the worst thing ever. You just don't know what's causing it. So in this case, they ended up doing one round of IVF that failed. And before continuing on with that, which is so astronomically expensive, the husband was like, hold on a second, like I just think we need to get some more testing done. And that's when they gave them this test and figured it out. So now they're trying to do this quote unquote immunotherapy with her, where they said it's called LIT therapy, where they're injecting processed samples of the husband's blood into the wife to help her immune system try to build tolerance. I mean, this is just such a rare thing, and I feel like they have a really long road ahead of them, and not to mention extremely expensive.
Well, it's kind of like she's getting like allergy shots
Yeah.
for the husband, right?
Wow.
But yeah, it's also not it might be like semi controversial treatment too. Um, a lot of practices don't do it. It's not FDA approved for normal fertility treatment. That doesn't mean that it doesn't work and people aren't using it, but there are controversies with it, and a lot of the studies are showing that the results are inconsistent and it's hard to reproduce the results. And some studies show that there's a benefit to this therapy, others don't. But they also said they're working to improve her immune system so it doesn't necessarily attack those cells as soon as it sees them. But I mean, yeah, like I guess I have a lot of questions about it because just because she's allergic to his DNA, would she be allergic to someone else's DNA? It seems like you have these markers on your cells, and it seems like this is happening in people that have similar markers on their cells. So, like, maybe if you found one that was a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, the markers are just close enough that the body is like getting these mixed signals and freaking out when it sees something that it doesn't exactly recognize. Whereas if it was a little bit different, it might not have such a reaction.
I feel like this is just such a weird thing that maybe I'm sure reproductive endocrinologists have come across case studies like this in the past, but it's just such an unusual thing. I don't think they would jump to and not even recognize. I think for unexplained fertility, the most common reasoning they believe causing it is what's called like silent endometriosis, when you're not really presenting with typical endometriosis signs, but something down there is still causing, it's mostly when women get transfers and the embryos just will not take and they keep having miscarriages and stuff like that. So this is interesting. We should maybe get my beloved Dr. Osmond on here to talk about exactly what they look for. So I don't know. I think it's interesting, and I think it's cool they're being very open about it. So maybe if there's they can't be the only people in the world going through this. We've had stories, I feel, in the past of women being allergic to sperm.
I guess this was my question because a lot of it is like, especially talking to certain, not just you, but other people that have been going through IVF for years that I've known, there's a little bit of, since there's big money attached to it and cash, it does make me a little concerned sometimes. Like, for this particular couple, like, this was the husband's decision to check this to see if this was a thing, and it got checked and figured out. But, like, how many times do they let a woman go through the IVF treatment and the couple go through the IVF treatment before they even suggest that this could be a possibility? Because if they didn't bring that up, they might have went for a second round and never had it done, unless this is part of the normal testing that they do at a place like yours.
I think it just depends on your clinic and your specific doctor. There's definitely bad faith actors in this community that are going to take advantage because it is so expensive and they could be so profitable for these clinics. But I also think it boils down to experience. Like, you just might have a doctor that's never even thought of this being a possibility. And
Well, that's alarming to me, actually.
yeah, so
If that's your thing, it's,
yeah, because I feel like, everybody has IVF is kind of also just one of those weird things because it's so particular down to the chemistry of the one or two people trying to go through it together. And so it's hard to tell what's right and what's wrong and what's being done right and what's not and everything. So I think that's where they can get away with a lot of stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you just want to hope in this world that people aren't doing that. But we definitely know that some are.
Yeah, I mean, one in particular, a family member of mine went through it 3, 4, 5 rounds, never got pregnant, never, and like, she spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to get it done.
Well, yeah.
And I'm just kind of like, is there a point where, I mean, I understand they want to be optimistic, and I guess it's chance, but it's also just like, that's crazy.
I think if you have a good doctor, they won't allow you to A, physically go through that, and B, emotionally go through it. I mean, it is so much to go through something like that. I know my clinic, for example, before I knew what my particular situation is and we talked about the possibilities, they were like, okay, we would start you off with IUI basically, but we only do 3 rounds of IUI, and if the 3 rounds are unsuccessful, then we go to IVF. There are some clinics that will do like 12 rounds of IUI before allowing you to go to
Yeah.
IVF. And it's like, okay, at what point? I feel like my place is a little bit of a nicer clinic that maybe runs more of their own studies and has better practices and everything. So they know what works for them. And maybe that's why they're like, we've seen in our practice and our research that if it doesn't happen in 3 attempts, it's not happening. Or
Yeah.
there's like a 2% chance of it happening. So we're not even going to bother. But then you have insurance coming into it. Some insurances won't cover IVF unless you go through a certain amount of IUI
Yeah.
or testing. It's just, this is an industry that's, you want to think that first IVF baby was born 50 years ago. So it's been around for 5 decades, give or take, maybe more. But it's still kind of a new industry. It's like social media and all this tech stuff. There still needs to be some regulations put in place.
Yeah.
But you just want to hope in this case it was like truly they couldn't figure it out, and then
Well,
they did.
there's stories in the news all the time that they're bad actors.
Yeah.
People, like, I just read one the other day, actually. We didn't even talk about it on the show. This woman, like, same thing, did like a 23andMe test, found out that she's got all these half siblings, and they all figured out they went to the same place, and
Yeah.
it's like it happens, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Greed gets the best of people sometimes, and
Yeah, and you could go to a really good place and still have an issue happen or have somebody be a bad actor. So like I don't know. It's really up to you. You got to like listen to your gut, and if something doesn't feel right as somebody that just went through this, I think you really got to be like, I've got to switch doctors or places or whatever to make it should feel right to you the entire time. This is such a serious thing. It's very emotionally taxing. It costs so much money. It's a lot to go through, and like I can't even express enough the emotional mental toll it took on me the last year going through that. So like it has to feel good to you the entire time, or it's just not going to feel right. Even if everything ends up being successful, you have to feel good about every step of the process yourself.
yes.
All right, on that note, we are going to be on True Crime with the Sarge live on YouTube tomorrow night at 6
Oh, that's gonna be
p.m.
fun.
with Joe Jackalone. We are so excited for that.
I love him. He is so funny.
Oh, he is so funny, and I really can't wait to see what topics he has for us and to talk to him.
Oh, God.
It's it's going to be a good time. Please head over to Apple or Spotify and leave us a review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and send us your stories to stories@motherknowsdeath.com.
Don't forget, we have Mother Knows Death merch now, too.
And we're trying to work on a Valentine's Day collection, so
Yeah, if you guys have any ideas,
em-
feel free.
email us your ideas, but we'll have some new stuff coming out too. So you can head over to thedoramatershop.com to purchase those items there.
See you guys. Have a
Bye.
good weekend. Thank you for listening to Mother Knows Death. As a reminder, my training is as a pathologist assistant. I have a master's level education and specialize in anatomy and pathology education. I am not a doctor and I have not diagnosed or treated anyone, dead or alive, without the assistance of a licensed medical doctor. This show, my website, and social media accounts are designed to educate and inform people based on my experience working in pathology so they can make healthier decisions regarding their life and well-being. Always remember that science is changing every day, and the opinions expressed in this episode are based on my knowledge of those subjects at the time of publication. If you are having a medical problem, have a medical question, or are having a medical emergency, please contact your physician or visit an urgent care center, emergency room, or hospital. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Mother Knows Death on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get podcasts. Thanks.